Hello everyone. Hello, I'm just trying to adjust my tripod. Maybe will give me a better look. Like this. No, I don't like it. Oh, gosh. That's not straight. Yeah, that's the maximum I can. That's not straight, but okay. Let's leave it as is. Hello everyone. Yeah, long time no see. We spent 2 weeks being on holidays in Thailand. Now we're back to Sydney, back to studio, back to work. So I'll restart my live videos here from time to time. Yeah, I got some tan, no pimples, new glasses, messy hair. I'm a little bit less tired, but still want to sleep like crazy. So yeah, I'll try not to fall asleep right during our live. As I have announced already, I'd like to speak about packaging, but not this way I talk about packaging, like how to pack flowers into the box. We have already 2 small videos on our YouTube channel, and I will make another one with maybe more details, with like real process how I do this. Maybe I'll take one order, the real one, the existing one, and will like put my camera up and I'll try to pack. So this will be the real case, how these particular flowers will be packed into this particular box and how they will travel to this particular customer. So, but today what I'd like to talk about is how to manage costs for your postage, because, well, that's my favorite topic actually, to talk about the postage and costs and safety, because of 2 reasons. There are 2 reasons why we care about packaging that badly, right, when we make paper flowers. First is just because we make paper flowers, we spend lots of time, we put a lot of effort into making them, and we don't want them to be damaged somehow. But they are made from paper, so you can damage them pretty easy like this. You don't need even just to smash them like that, right? But it's enough to put them upside down or on the side in the box somehow and leave it for a week or so. Well, actually that's the time which flowers spend in the box, traveling even to my customers within Australia. If they're traveling overseas, that's at least 2 weeks, sometimes 3 and 4. So if your flowers lay in the box like this, or not properly, or not protected, not being protected, well, they can damage themselves. You don't need to smash them, right? So that's the first reason why I do care about packaging, because flowers are fragile and I put lots in them, so I want them to be safe. And the second one is that's the postage cost. Really, I'm not sure about other countries, especially in US. I know that in US everything is cheaper, at least, than in Australia. There are lots of logistic providers, so postage is significantly cheaper than in Australia. In Australia, everything is expensive, and I know there are other countries where everything is expensive. So I do care about my costs for postage. That's why this is the packaging is the thing which I start with when I create my flower sets, when I make my flowers, when I start my flower business, because I can make a set of paper flowers. It will be absolutely beautiful. It will cost, well, more or less, well, properly, it will be budgeted properly for the customers, customers will be happy with this cost and they will be happy to pay. But once I say how much it will cost them, because they pay for postage, they say, oh no, that's too expensive. So, and I need to restart. I start from the scratch from the very beginning, and that's the idea which I learned after my mistakes. As I told you, if you want to learn how to fail in this business, if you want to learn how to fail in postage, just ask me. Believe me, in 3 years I made all these mistakes. If only someone tell me from the beginning, don't do this, do this straight away, I would be so grateful. But there was no one around, no one experienced, especially in this Australian specifics. So I can tell you about my experience. Maybe this will help you, and you will know what to look for in your country, because you will have a little bit different circumstances. So what we have a set of flowers, and we have a box, right? And we have a customer who lives either next door or in Western Australia, which is across the whole country. I live in Sydney, which is an eastern part of the country. So my customers are all over the world, but I'm more focused on Australia, and Australia is still a big country. Well, in comparison to US, it's small, but if we talk about territory, I mean how big, like geographically, the country is, not about the population. The country is big, and there is a huge desert in the middle of the country. And but on the another beach, another side of this country, there's still people living, and they want to buy something, and even paper flowers. So if I want to post it there, it's a plane flying to these cities. So which means the postage will be huge. Doesn't matter what's inside, paper flowers or golden blocks, doesn't matter, it will be huge. But I still want to make business for these people as well. So first you need to do is to look for logistic providers in your country. Not in Australia, in your country. In Australia we have one, let's call them main logistic provider, which is Australia Post. It's like a partly government owned company with lots of branches and franchises offices everywhere, but they have the same pricing structure, they have the same everything the same, but they're just owners of these offices are different. So I use mainly Australia Post, but what I found in a year or year and a half after starting working with them, that I'm not always satisfied, not because they damage my boxes, but because, well, here is price is a little bit high, here they cannot take my parcel at all just because that's too big for them or too long for them. So I decided that I'll need to find a couple of alternative suppliers, logistic companies, and I found them. I found a few, but then I decided to keep only 2 because I like their policies, their prices, how fast they work, how safe they work. So what I do now, I use one main supply, logistic supply, and a couple of others for very special cases. So, and then looking for alternative suppliers, what I found that more or less all the logistic companies, the idea of their work is pretty similar. So they use very similar structures for prices. There are some nuances, but they are so tiny, but you need to know them. So I'll tell you about the Australia Post experience, how do they charge and how I manage this, so you maybe will find something similar in your logistics supply in your country. So there are 2 types of whatever they send exist. There are either envelopes or parcels. When they say envelope, it's just a regular envelope for one sheet of paper or document or whatever, or anything, any envelope or small box, like thin box, which is that thin, about 2 centimeters thick, right? This is still envelope. As soon as it is more than 2 centimeters thick, it is a parcel. So obviously I do not send envelopes, only if that's paper butterflies. All my flowers, they are parcels. But parcels can be different. Parcels can be in boxes and in plastic bags. I never do plastic bags, obviously, because flowers are fragile. So I do boxes. And there are different types, sizes, and qualities and prices for boxes exist. But we speak parcels. So, and there is a very clear pricing policy for parcels. Whichever size of box you have, first they look at the weight of the parcel. As long as the weight of your box, doesn't matter what's inside, as long as the weight of the box is 500 grams or less, which means that your box can be 499 grams, that's still acceptable, and 500 grams is still acceptable. This is a small but similar price for any postcode within Australia. And doesn't matter if I send it next door or if I send it across the country to Western Australia. Doesn't matter how big my box. Is it like this? Is it like a little bit thicker than the envelope, which is 2 centimeters thick, right? It could be like this, or it could be huge box. No one cares, because that's an idea. Under 500 grams, one price for everything. So I do follow. And I have a few sets of flowers. I call them Super Mini, and they consist of just a few small flowers which have no that big centers. There are many flowers like that, but what I do care of is the weight of my box when it's packed and closed and all stickers on. It stays within 500 grams. And then I promote these kind of sets all over Australia. I'm saying, look guys, you get the small set for the small amount of money and the smallest, and that's absolutely honest, the smallest postage cost within Australia. And doesn't matter where you live, in Perth, which is Western Australia, or in Sydney, next door to me, it will cost you absolutely the same. So this gives me an opportunity to promote it even further rather than within my state or next state or closest cities. And I need to create these sets carefully, because if I do something wrong and I pack my box and when I come to the post office and my box is 501 gram, it will be completely different story, because the price won't be the same now. And for some states it can be different. For some states and postcodes it can stay within the same amount, right? So for 500 grams it's $7.40. That's Australian dollars. As soon as you hit this 500 grams point, but until 1 kilo weight, so it should be exactly 1000 grams, there is another idea for postage. They still do not count the dimensions of your box. They don't care is it small or big, but they don't care is it 501 gram or 999, doesn't matter, within this range. But at this stage the postcode does matter. So if I send my over 500 grams box next door, this will be like $10 something for postage. But if I send it to Perth, which is flying, my box will fly to Perth, it will be $5, $6, $7 more. So And that's still okay. That's not a big deal. $5 is not big money. But I need to think of this, because when I post my products on Etsy, I can say for small sets that the pricing for postage will be the same wherever you are from. And I should keep in mind, if I put on Etsy in my online shop any set which is heavier, or well, obviously consists of more flowers or bigger size flowers than my super mini one, I should think that my postage cost will be different. It will vary from state to state, from postcode to postcode, and I cannot predict who will buy my flowers. My neighbors, right? I mean, well, neighbors who are living, well, not like literally next door, but in the closest postcode to me, or guys from Perth or Darwin or Adelaide, and they are far from me. So I need to calculate like an average. I need to think, well, maybe a few guys from Sydney, a few guys from Perth, so average will be this, and I need to adjust my postage cost, because Etsy doesn't calculate postage costs depending on the postcode. That's not perfect system, right? And even if I have my own website, it won't count this perfectly. So I need to set like a flat rate, right? But I think that this is for sets of flowers which are from 500 grams to 1000 grams. Because right after 1 kilo, completely different story starts, and it's much more different, much more expensive for those who live much further from me, because if I come to the post office and my box is 1 kilo and 5 grams, that's it. Sometimes I will pay 20, 30, sometimes even $50 more, depending on the size of the box, because after 1 kilo, they still have this cut off every 500 grams. So 1 kilo and 500 grams, 2 kilos, 2 kilos, 500 grams, and so on. So I need to keep an eye on my box when packing. I always need to have scales next to me just to be sure that I stay within these numbers, because if that's over 1 kilo, they count the weight, they count the dimensions, and they take the width, the length, and the height of the box. And there is a very complicated formula. Don't even try to understand it, just believe them, because they calculate the cubic size. So they multiply all these numbers and they get a cubic size. And what they say, actually any supplier and a logistic provider do this. They have the weight of your box and they have dimensions to calculate the cubic weight. So then the price will be based on whatever is greater. So which means you can send to Perth small box with the weight 1 kilo, or huge box with the weight of 1 kilo, and their prices may vary. They may be either similar if we use for further postcodes, or sometimes small but heavy box will be more expensive, and the big but light box will be less expensive. For other postcodes, it will be completely different story, because from my postcode to next door, my parcel will travel by track, right? And that's cheaper than plane. To Perth, my parcel will travel by plane, and for the plane, the space in the aircraft is very limited. Well, if we speak about my parcels, 1 kilo or 1.5 kilos, for the plane it doesn't matter. That's such a not significant difference. So for them, it's much more expensive to carry my huge, even light box, because it will take more space, rather than take small 1 kilo or 2 kilos box because it will take less space. So I always need to keep it in mind because my price for postage will depend on it. And very often when I sell my flowers, what happens? People pay me for flowers and for postage as well, and they do this before I start the project. So they need to pay me before I need to name the price. So if I know how much my flowers will cost me and for how much I'm happy to sell them for, that's one story. And completely different story is how much I will ask to pay me for postage. And if I am wrong, what may happen? I come to the post office with box already packed. It will be nicely packed and safely and protectively and blah blah and so on. And then put the box on the scale, and scale says 1010 grams. And I thought it will be under 1 kilo. And I asked for postage costs from the customer, $20, let's imagine. And now I get that for this postcode, this particular box, which is just now over 10 grams over 1 kilo, this will cost me $40. I cannot come back to my customer and say, hey, look, I'm so sorry, but your postage is significantly higher than I expected. What they will say, hey girl, that's your problem. You should be careful about this. So what I will do, I will pay my own money out of my pocket. So which means if I send $100 set in this box and I expect it to pay $20 for postage, I will take these $20 additional dollars out of my margin. So I will get not $100 for these flowers. I will get just $80. And if I do these mistakes every single time, so what it means for me, that's not a good business anymore. So you need to understand the idea of your logistic provider, their pricing structure, how they price their products, and you need to be very careful about this. This is a box I use for packing my super mini flower sets, which are under 500 grams. Can you imagine this box itself weighs 367 grams. Can you calculate how many grams is left for paper flowers? Not so many, just a tiny bit. Yes, flowers are pretty light, but once you put like 3, 4, 5 flowers, believe me, your box will be 499 grams, and you cannot even pack it properly because there were different kind of cases. I could put my flowers into the box, weight it before closing, and see, 495 grams. Yay! All good, I can post it at the cheapest rate, that's all good. And then I just put a little bit of sticky tape, a little bit of fragile tape, just to say that the content is fragile and they need to be careful with my box. A little bit, just a tiny piece of this postage label, which I print on my printer because there's my logo and my name and my address is printed on it already. So I just add the address of my customer and I stick it on with a little bit of hot glue or maybe a little bit of sticky tape, and I pack everything and I come to the post office and oopsie, it's 505 grams. Just because I didn't even realize that a little bit of sticky tape and a sheet of paper as a postage label weighed more than 5 grams. I never even thought of this. Yes, I've been there before. I had this mistake before, so you should weight your box before going to the post office. And when you plan your set of flowers, if that's not the one of a kind, so if that's custom made set. Let's say the special customer came to you and said, I want this particular set, can you please custom make for me just from scratch, and this will be the only one which exists. Yes, that's another story. But if you want to create something like a set which you will repeat and repeat and repeat consistently, it will be in your online shop, and you don't want even to think about this cost one more time, so you think only once but carefully. So then you should keep in mind that you will need some grams for packaging, maybe even for packaging materials. So you cannot fill the box until 500 grams before it's closed. So you need to understand the structure of pricing of your logistic provider, and then to create your sets this way so they fit into these regulations, into this pricing structure. So you have no surprises, and you do not pay out of your pocket yourself when you lodge in this parcel. Another thing you should think about, and actually that was the main reason why I started looking for alternative logistic providers, because well, every provider has some restrictions. Well, I don't say about drugs and guns and stuff like this. No, I won't be able to post this. God bless only paper flowers, and they are allowed. But for example, for Australia Post, they do not allow parcels longer than 105 centimeters, which means what you can say, oh come on, Anastasia, you just post paper flowers, right? That 100 centimeters, that's 1 meter, that's a big box, don't you need it? Yes, I need, because sometimes well I make freestanding flowers, and they have stem, which is very often is 150, 160 centimeters. For those who are in US, it's 1 meter is a little bit more than 3 feet, and 150, which is the length of my stem for freestanding flower, is that's 5 feet. So I cannot send 5 feet long stem via Australia Post just because they don't take them. Well, I use the bendable material, which I can bend, and I tried only once to bend the stem like this and put it into the box, which is 50 by 50 centimeters square. That was rubbish. That was absolutely rubbish, and for me and for the customer. And then finally I sent another box of the straight stems because that was a disaster. Don't even try to roll them into a small box. So I needed to find a supplier who can take my 160 centimeters long box. That was one of the reasons. And another thing is each provider has the term called girth, which is a sum of width and length of your box. Doesn't matter which side it is, so just 2 dimensions of your box, this and that. When you sum them, you get girth. And Australia Post doesn't take anything which is greater than 140 centimeters girth. You can say again, well, what does it mean? It does mean that my biggest box I use, 50 by 50 by 40 centimeters, doesn't come through this girth. No, I'm wrong. I'm completely wrong. This one does, but anything longer, anything bigger, that doesn't. So they can say, if you want to put the whole backdrop into one box, they can say, sorry, no, we won't take it. Some post offices, especially if you are in good relation with the staff, because I post a lot, I'm like a very frequent customer, and they just make me some favors from time to time. So sometimes they take my bigger size boxes than they are allowed to, but that's a risk for me every time when I come to the post office with this box. I'm always nervous because if they are not in a good mood today, they can say no. Or if there's a like boss or someone from, well, my post office, my local post office is a franchisee company, but if someone from the original company comes to maybe to check them how they work, they won't allow in front of them to take my box which is greater than girth. So again, that's risky. I don't do this. So I found other companies who take long boxes, who take big boxes. Yes, sometimes they charge more, but it still works. Another thing is Australia Post is a nice provider. They do their job nicely as long as you pack really properly inside. But I need to drive or to walk to their post office. What does it mean for me? Well, especially for me because I'm not driving. Yeah, it is. I don't drive, so I walk to the post office, and sometimes I ask my husband to drive me to there, especially when that's a huge amount of boxes or it's a rainy weather. I drive to there. But what if it's a rainy day and my husband isn't home? I cannot do this. Well, yes, that's my problem, I know, but still, I need an alternative solution. So what I found, there are some companies, courier companies, who take parcels from your door and deliver to the door of your customer. So I found a few, and I order online, I pay online, I leave the box at my doorstep, and then at this certain time during the next business day, the courier comes. They do not even bother me. They don't even buzz my door. So I just see from my window sitting in the studio that, well, they came and they took the box. They just take and go. And then I see in the tracking that the box got the right place and it's safe and sound and everything is good. And sometimes what I found, this company, there was about 1.5 years, I found this information about these kind of companies that they take boxes from your door and deliver to the customer's door, and I thought, oh well, I won't use them because they're so fancy. That's such a good service from my door, so I don't even walk to the post office, so maybe they will cost me more, I thought, and I never even tried to find out their prices. Can you imagine how silly I was? And once I did it, I found that there is another logic, but there is a logic, and you can find it out and understand it and keep it in mind. There is a logic in their price ranges, but for some postcodes, significantly cheaper than Australia Post, especially for long destinations and for bulky items. And for other postcodes, especially for those which are close to me, almost next door, right, or next suburb, the prices of these companies are higher than Australia Post. So what I started to do for all my bulky orders and my across the country postages, I use this company, this alternative one. For my small parcels, which I send just nearby, I use Australia Post. So, and I found that, wow, that's completely different world around. I can use and this and that, and yeah, I don't lose money, but I always need to be careful while packaging everything into the boxes. So go and look for alternative supplies, logistic supplies in your area. Find out who else exists. Believe me, in these days when everything is everyone up to online shopping, people want to buy online. They don't want to go for these shopping malls. Well, only maybe just for fun, but we are busy. We want to buy online, so which means that the parcels must come to my place somehow, not me driving if I'm a customer. So this there are so many new businesses around in all the countries. Just find them, understand their pricing structure, and think of this. and create your flower sets keeping this in mind. So you won't be in trouble anymore, and you will save your budget, your customers' budget, and everyone will be happy. That's it for now. And next time I will show you, maybe right in live video, not only on YouTube video, how I pack flowers in the box so they come absolutely safe and sound to the customer, and they are not damaged, not inside, not from outside. How I do this, especially taking into account that I'm really crazy about plastic packaging. I don't use any plastic packaging inside, no foamy foam peanuts as a fillers, no plastic, nothing, no bubble wrap. I don't use these materials, but still I have safe deliveries, and I'll show you what I do. Bye for now. Have a nice day or have a good night wherever you are, and stay with us. Bye bye.